So for this practice, we're going to use, as usual, our breadboard, an Arduino. We are going to use a couple of jumpers, and we need a resistor. In this case, it is a 10K resistor, which is brown, black, orange. And finally, we have two different types of push buttons. They do pretty much the same, but they have two pins, in this case, on each side, and only one pin on each side. So I'm gonna explain the difference. In this case, as you see, this one has two pins. Basically, when you pulse the button, when you pulse the button, you're going to allow the current to flow through both leads. But this one has four. How to identify the way this thing works? I'm gonna show you this way. Below, as you can see, you will find these lines. When they are horizontal, that means that this lead and this lead are always connected, no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're pushing the button or not. This lead and this lead are connected, and the same this and this. But this lead, for example, is not connected to this and this. And the same happened here. This lead, as you can see, because of this, is only connected to this one. So when I push the button, this lead will automatically be connected here. So if you analyze the situation, it would be like having one lead here and one lead here. And that's it. The only difference is that you have two different points to attach more components, actually. So imagine that this one lead is exactly as these two, and this one lead is exactly at these two. So when you push the button, both will be connected. Like when you push this button, both will be connected. So to create the circuit, we're gonna start with the breadboard. As you see, I already connected the positive and the negative, the 5 volts and GND. And the first component to plug will be the push button. What is the way to plug it? The way it can fit. Because as you can see, if you rotate it, the leads cannot fit into the breadboard. So I'm gonna plug it here in the middle of the breadboard, whatever, I don't care where. So I will plug it here. And we're going to understand that these two, as I just explained, are already connected, and these two are already connected. So the flow of electricity, the flow of electrons will go from this part to this part when I press the button. Having that in mind, I'm going to start with the resistor, my 10K resistor. It doesn't matter to which side, actually. I'm going to plug the resistor, touching one of the leads in one of the sides, like this. And then on the other lead of the resistor, on the one that is empty, which is this one, I'm gonna plug the positive. So the positive here will go to the positive here, which is the positive of the breadboard. Then on the same lead that I used, I'm going to connect my yellow wire, my yellow jumper, that will go from the breadboard, well, from the push button, to be honest, to be exactly, to the Arduino. And finally, since I am connecting this side to this other side, I will need to connect the negative to the other lead, here to the negative. So if you take a look to this, the flow of electrons will go from the negative. If the button is open, nothing is going to touch this part, and this part has the yellow wire, which is the one receiving the signal. So when I press, all the electricity can flow, and my Arduino will be able to detect. So I will take the Arduino, I will connect the yellow one to the number 2, to the pin number 2, the black one to GND, and my red one to 5 volts. If at any case you need to replace this one, for the other type of push button, basically what we have to do is remove this and put the two leads in the place that belongs. It doesn't have a real order, so I just have to make this touch this and this touch this. And that's it. When I press this, the same thing is gonna happen. It will flow from this point to this point. This is the code for the push button. In this case, this code, as you saw while creating the circuit, to begin, above the void setup, I have to declare all the variables that I'm going to use. The first one is where am I going to plug the cable that goes from the push button, and as I indicate, it is plugged in number 2. So it's an integer, the name of the variable, and it's plugged in the number 2. Then I have to create a new variable called value that will tell me if the button is pressed or not. Remember, this is digital, so it can only have a value of 0 or 1. Then in void setup, things that will happen only once. My pin mode will declare that the push button is a sensor, so it's an input, and then I have to start the serial monitor because there is where I'm going to check the reading of the button. Here in void loop, which is what is going to happen over and over again, the first thing is to attach the reading to my variable value. So I'm gonna say digital read. The command digital read is digital because it only has 2 stages, either is 0 or 1, either the button is pressed or not. So I'm gonna say I'm going to declare a digital read on the push button, and that reading will be stored in the variable value. Then, because of the noise that the button can cause, I'm gonna wait 50 milliseconds, which is pretty much nothing, and that's to avoid the noise. What is noise? That since it is a mechanical component, when you press it, sometimes you cannot get an accurate reading. So to avoid that, we're gonna wait 50 milliseconds. And the next step is to show or display the value, which is the read I got from the button, in the serial monitor. So I use serial print line, and finally we wait for a second. So that means that almost every second I'm going to get a reading if the button is being pressed or not, by using a 0 or a 1. Okay, now that I completed the circuit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this so I can plug it to the computer and you can see it a little bit better. I will connect this to the computer, and now after checking in the Arduino software that my board is the proper one, which in this case is an Arduino Uno, and the port is the one that is showing, I'm going to upload my project. And while it uploads, I'm gonna show you how it works using this type of push button, and then I'm gonna connect this one so you can see that is exactly the same. Now done uploading, I'm gonna open the serial monitor, and while I check the serial monitor, I see that there is displaying a number 1. So every time I push the button, it changes to 0. For as long as I press the button, it will be in 0, and then I will release it again and it will display the number 1. So as I told you before, I'm gonna unplug this and I'm going to connect now this push button. So same thing is gonna happen. As you see, there is the number 1, but when I press, it displays the number 0. And that's pretty much how to read a push button using the Arduino.